what prompted your guys' decision to move back to California?
Go ahead.
Things that you guys would warn somebody about moving to the Boise area.
Well, I think there were, we came up with 3 things. Number 1.
I'm gonna get the Idaho natives to just, hate me.
What were your initial impressions of the Boise area and Middleton in particular?
You can answer that one.
I was surprised at how similar it is to the Central Valley of California in terms of agriculture.
Okay.
I didn't realize how much agriculture was here. And it is a true valley. So in the Central Valley of California, we dealt with smog that came in and it kind of sat around. And I was surprised to find that it does do that a little bit here.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then the other thing that really surprised me was I didn't know about the inversion layer over the wintertime.
Oh, yes.
So it blocked the sun a lot, and I like to see the sun. So that was kind of a hurdle for me to get over.
Yeah, yeah. Come that January time, you gotta go find that blue sky.
Yeah.
Get high enough to see
We went up to Bogus
it.
Basin a few times
Yes.
just to get out. Yeah,
Yes.
see the sunlight.
Yep, we've done that as a family too. Just gotta see that blue sky. What were the deciding factors for you guys in choosing Middleton? Because I know you guys rented in Canyon County for a time. What made Middleton where you guys wanted to raise your family?
We wanted a small community where we loved that there was only one high school. That, the sports would all feed into that one high school. So the buddies that the boys are on teams with in, rec league, well, over the years, that would lead in to feed into the Middleton High School. The smaller population size and finding a good church was important to us, and we found a church in Middleton that we liked. So
Okay.
between schooling and sports and church, we kind of landed with
This was
Middleton.
where.
Yeah.
So the sports, how have you guys found the sports here in the area versus where you guys came from? And what sports have you guys plugged your boys into?
We found them to be actually, so it depends. If you're in a rec league, then you can take it easy. It's not too serious. Then there's also the opportunity to join a club team. There's a lot of club teams for baseball, for example, that if you wanted to have a tournament every single weekend and pay for it, then you can do that. The actually unfortunate side of that is that so many travel teams, which is, we feel like a pretty Southern California thing that's infiltrated its way in here, is it takes away from the rec leagues. And so you have the talent is kind of dispersed outside of just the rec league. And so you can have kids that will be on a high school team together that won't necessarily play baseball together their whole youth baseball years. So that was kind of unfortunate, but Middleton's doing a good job of really trying to get a lot of the good baseball players to stay in Middleton and play at the rec league.
And so what prompted your guys' decision to move back to California?
Go ahead.
Well, I think there were, we came up with 3 things. Number 1, for his career, just in terms of how he was talking about remote work, to be able to move up in his industry, he really realized that he needs to be in person.
Yeah.
All the
value
farms
of
are
that.
there, the growers are there, his team is there. So that was probably the number 1 reason. The second reason was schooling. I don't really have a desire to homeschool the boys forever. And we thought there was more opportunities here, but which there are, but they're more Meridian, Boise area. So we weren't wanting to live in those communities, so the drive wasn't going to work. We weren't too thrilled with the public school options here in Milton for one reason or another. So we were kind of feeling stuck with schooling, so that was probably reason number 2. And the third reason, which was just the cherry on top, was just going back to the solid friendships and family that we've
Community that you
Community,
guys.
The network that took 20 years to plus to build.
Yeah,
totally.
yeah. And the schooling here, as far as the public school, what did you find was undesirable about that option?
they're impacted here in Middleton. So they're putting up extra modulars for classrooms and just huge class sizes. And on the education front, I haven't heard great things about just the level of education that the kids would be getting.
Yeah.
As well as some of the other things that go on in public schools all over the
That
all
we're
over
facing.
the U.S. You can't really run from it, But
Let's talk money for just a little bit. From being in California, moving here to the Boise area, what significant changes did you see as far as price increase or decrease in housing, utilities, fuel, food, sports?
Where we came from was Central California. When you say you're from California, everybody thinks it's either LA or San Francisco, one of those two. We're right in the middle, and so cost of living compared to those areas was way toned down. So like housing market, I think coming here, we actually went backwards a little bit, would you say? It was finding a house of similar qualities was more expensive here than where we came from.
Really?
It was. Now granted, part of that's, yes, I would say that was the case. So housing-wise, for us, where we came from, it was very similar to here. Whereas LA, this is still way cheaper than anything in LA or the Bay Area. Right. So for us, we didn't see a benefit in the cost there. Where did we see a benefit, would you say?
At the gas pump, you don't have that California gas tax on every gallon. The energy bill, we've been cranking the ACs in here nonstop, and it was $200.
Yeah.
It's
so
just
amazing.
3 times as cheap almost.
Which that would have been $700 or more in California. So
food, I would say similar, in the grocery stores, but I would say the restaurants here are probably a little bit pricier. I was surprised to notice that.
Huh.
Again, compared to the Central Valley,
right?
Yeah.
Versus like in LA, it might be more expensive or something.
Talking about community, how is the local community here compared to where you guys came from?
We came from a very unique community in that everybody knew everybody, and there were 3-4 generations of families there.
Oh, wow.
And so there are really strong families there.
Yeah.
And there's a strong Christian faith within that community, and it reflects on the culture. And if you go to the high school campus, you're going to notice a difference with these kids, even though it's a public school.
Yeah.
And I just think that is a result of the strong family and the generations in that community. Comparing that tight-knit community with here, we realized once we got here that sometimes it takes years to develop those same relationships. There wasn't, I just feel like there wasn't, even though the community here is the same size in terms of population, you don't get that everybody knows everybody feel. And I don't know if that's in part due to the fact that so many people have moved here and restarted their lives here.
Yeah.
I couldn't quite figure that out.
There's not that deep root.
Yeah, there's no
people haven't
generation.
Yeah.
I'm sure there are people who have been here for generations, but there's just a ton.
It's overshadowed by maybe a lot of the new people.
Yeah, there's just so many new people. But most of them are moving here for the same reasons. They want their more freedoms, and they want a better upbringing for their kids. It's been really neat meeting a lot of new people, and everybody has been very kind here. I think the church played a big role in finding people that we could start doing life with really quickly.
Yeah.
So that was really helpful.
So was it hard to find that church community family for you guys?
We tried out a few different churches that were kind of further away when we were living in Nampa at first.
Okay.
But then as soon as there's not a whole lot of churches within Middleton proper, but the one that we tried, Middleton First Baptist, was awesome. The first Sunday that we went, we kind of realized okay, this is our church.
This is where
for
we
sure.
can
Yeah, and so from that point, I mean, it was easy to get plugged in, join men's Bible study, you know, go to Sunday school, hear the sermon preached each Sunday, and just really click with everybody when you have Christ in common.
Yeah.
That church has been a huge blessing for us.
So it was probably like like an anchor of like helping you guys find community here in Middleton was just the church and then the sports with the boys, finding other families. Would you
Right.
guys say that was the two biggest contributors to helping you guys find community in Middleton?
Yeah,
For sure.
Yeah, especially with not having a ton of family here. I mean, we do have some, which helps. Anybody you know when moving to an unfamiliar place to have that, it's just, you know, you have a leg up. But yeah, church community is always going to be, you know, the top for sure.
So Caitlin, you are a stay-at-home mom and you were homeschooling your boys. How did you find community in this area? Challenging, easy?
Yeah, so I met a gal whose name is also Caitlin.
Oh, fun.
And she lives here in Middleton, and they have 5 boys as well. And so we immediately invited them over for dinner. I feel like you just have to invite people in your home if you want to,
Yes.
you know, start
Yeah.
creating community. So they came over, and it's funny. We always joke that when you have friends come over, it's like the wives have to click and the dads have to click. So it's kind of like
Yes.
you're dating them, you know. And,
Yeah, exactly.
and we quickly hit it off. Like Parker and Brian are great friends, and Caitlin and I are great friends, and our boys are like, yeah, they love each
Yeah.
other, and so they kind of helped us get plugged in even more to
Oh,
where they were
awesome.
introducing us to their
Yeah.
friends and their family.
Yeah.
So that was a huge blessing meeting them. So I would say probably my biggest way was through Caitlin.
Well, that's awesome. Is there anything that would have kept you guys here in Middleton?
After a year, when we moved here, we said after a year we'd kind of reevaluate. And the top 3 things that, you know, that Caitlin mentioned, how would those look being here after a year? If any of those had changed, maybe. I mean, the work aspect that's a hard hurdle to get over.
Yeah.
I mean, I've spent, you know, 12 plus years in my industry and feel like I'm an expert at it now. And so just to completely change careers I don't feel like was in the cards in order to stay at this time. I mean, I think definitely if the schooling had worked out differently, it would have definitely been a pull to stay here because we do love it here and on a lot of different levels. So, oh man, I don't know if we had this conversation, and after if we said any of those things were different, would we have stayed? We couldn't answer that.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
because I mean, they're not different. So
Right. Right. Yeah. They're
Yeah.
definitely there.
What would you say?
Yeah, I mean, there's definitely been times since our house has been in escrow that I'm like, man, are we doing the right thing? Did we give enough time? But then I quickly go back to our 3 reasons of like, okay, his career can't grow here. And then like, there's really no schooling options that we would like here. So every time my emotions went that direction, I was quickly reminded of like, okay, logistically, it can't work staying here.
Yeah. Yeah, for this time, this season where you
Yeah.
guys are out
Yeah.
with your boys and still working and
Yeah.
and all of that.
And the schooling in California, like you might ask, what's so special about that? Well, we ended up actually starting a school with some friends.
Oh, wow.
It started out as just a few families, and we hired a teacher to kind of teach our boys at different age levels. And before we left, it had turned into like there were 3 classrooms, and now going back, there's going to be 5 different classrooms. And so it's kind of grown into something that we were hoping that we would find in existence here. But the reason
There is.
There
in, like,
are.
the Meridian area.
Yeah, but in order to create something like that here, I mean, the reason it jumped off the ground so quickly is because we knew so many people who were interested in the same idea. And so it would just take a long time to get to know enough people to kind of start the same thing here. In the meantime, our kids are growing really quickly. So
Yeah, and finding those people too, they're like, hey, we need this in this area. Do you guys regret moving to Idaho?
I certainly don't. I think that we've learned, it was a desire we've had for 10 plus years, and we just had to try it
Yeah.
to get it off of our mind. And we met really great people here. We experienced really great things, and we can say, like, yeah, we used to live in Idaho. And so I don't regret it one bit.
Yeah, I agree. I don't regret it one bit. I'm sure there's going to be moments where we ask ourselves, you know, even though California is where our family is, my job, I'm sure there's going to be moments where we ask ourselves, oh man, did we make the right move going
Yeah.
back?
Yeah.
Because all of those reasons that we moved away from California are still there. There's a lot of frustrations that we're going to have, I'm sure, but no, I don't regret it at all.
And it sounds like you guys will be back to visit, though, with friends and family close by. And
Definitely.
Yeah, definitely.
yeah. When you just said there's frustration still back in California, just California life, what are one or two of those things that you guys will be a challenge to, you know, you're going back into it with a family?
Do we have to keep the one or two? Can I, there's so many. No, I mean, just going to the gas pump and having to pay an extra $1.50 a gallon or whatever it might be. I think that's what it is right now. It's really frustrating. You know, the power bill, you know, having less freedoms to be able to do what I feel are innate freedoms for people to do in this country. It's just going to drive me crazy. And then, you know, the homeless population, there's a number of things that are going to be frustrating. So yeah, those are a few of them.
So would Boise be a place you guys would retire to?
Ooh. I think by the time we're to the retirement age, we'll probably want to be wherever our boys are. Hopefully they're close together.
Close by, yeah.
They may be spread out across the
Yeah.
country, but yeah, we want to be grandparents at some point, and
Yeah.
that'll probably trump the location.
Yeah.
I would say,
Absolutely.
so.
Yeah. Family is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are 1 to 3 things that you guys would warn somebody about moving to the Boise area?
I would just think about the things that were hard for me, and that would be the winter. Coming from a very mild climate to here, I thought I'd be fine. It was overcast a lot, you know, like I said, didn't see the sun, and then they just lasted a while, like the cold, windy spring. I'm just used to being able to be outside year round, and so that was an adjustment for me.
Yeah, yeah, and especially with, you know, boys that want to be active, and
Yep.
being indoors is a challenge.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
I was actually really surprised at how busy Meridian and the Boise area is, and how different of a culture I would say it is from, like when we thought about moving to Idaho, our reference point was northern Idaho, which is on its own different than the South,
Right.
culture-wise, and then it's even more. I don't know if this is the right way to describe it, but the California impact of like Southern California, or that kind of pace of life,
Yeah.
that fast pace of life, which we're not even used to coming from our small town. It's like, man, it is busy and there's a lot going on here.
Yes.
A lot of people, if you want to go the route of like 24/7 sports, 365, that's available, and a lot of people do that. Just wasn't our cup of tea. So
Yeah.
I was pretty surprised at that. So yeah, if you're coming into the area, just know that there's a huge difference between somewhere like Boise, Meridian versus, you know, Star, Middleton, Caldwell.
Yes.
So yeah, that was a big shock actually.
Yeah, yeah, like those are the remaining, like, clinging to the small town,
Yeah.
quieter, slower pace of life. I definitely, I understand that being a native here. It's Boise's.
Hey, you've seen it firsthand.
Yeah. How did your kids adapt to moving to a new place, new community, finding friends? Was it easy? Did you see some struggles?
I think they did really well. I think kids are resilient, and they started out the school year going to a school in Meridian, and we quickly figured that the 47-minute drive there
A little much.
was just not going to work. So we went back to just homeschooling from home. And so when you do that, I feel like you have to be really intentional in finding your community, because you don't have the school aspect. So we really went deep into sports. So they did football and basketball and baseball. And all three we had great experiences with, and they developed friends that overlapped in those sports. So guys they played football with, they also played baseball with, and so that's super helpful. So I think they adapted really well.
Yeah, and then that was kind of the desire of joining a small community and getting into sports, is that then they would start to see their buddies from sports teams in the community and that's when you really feel like you start becoming a part of the community and not like an outsider so much.
Yeah.
And so I think for them that was really
huge.
nice. And then we developed a couple of really close friends that you end up spending most of your time with, along with whatever family might be here. And so that was really helpful for the kids.
Yeah, and developing those friendships.